Hey everybody, I'm Dennis Grimes, and I want to welcome you to working your way through home technology. Obviously, you can see I'm coming to you from my home studio, and I didn't mute the Facebook, so now I'm listening to my delay, so stand by. So I guess it works. So you see that I too am kind of going through the same time. Um, I have been working as a professional actor and as a professional stage, hey Steve Spencer, and as a professional stagehand for about 22 years. I produce live events through various different like brand marketers, and one of my guests, Brian Polarchek, he knows all about the wonderful world of live brand marketing, as well as Steve Spencer, who's watching this thing. So I want to talk to you guys about today, just kind of like what I've been going through, things I've learned, tips, if that's what we're going to use. And I've brought a couple of friends along with, as well as our little moderator and host. You know her. That's Jess Jones. I'm going to bring her in. Hey, Jess.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Nice to have you all here.
So Jess invited me to start this conversation, and it's been really great just because it's forced me to really kind of like codify really simple things. A lot of people will just send me a message because they know that I'm not necessarily like tech phobic. So they're like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? How are you doing this thing?" And I'm like, "Oh, you know what? It's like this." And then, "What's your home situation?" Because each individual person's use case is unique. And Jess was like, "Hey, would you like to do a webinar?" And I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So she's brought me on board with this.
Yeah, I'm excited that we're doing this. I mean, I think, everyone is kind of, if you've been doing it before, you're doing it for sure now. If you haven't done it before, you're thrown into the deep end of the pool. And we've been having a lot of conversations that have evolved just based out of felt need during this time of like, now I know what I don't know.
Yeah, I just want to
Now
point
that
out
I'm doing this.
how great Jess's lighting is right now. She's found a great background, and she worked on that lighting yesterday, and it's quite good. It's a little warm. It's got a little daylight, cool on the one side, warm on the left. It's very nice
I'm
composition.
going warm because it's a mellow Friday, so I decided I didn't want to blast myself with abrasive bright white. So
That's
I'm
okay. I
I'm
dig it.
bringing you a Friday afternoon in my house right
I dig
now.
it.
So there you go. Yeah.
All right, I want to bring in another guest. This is our friend Brian Polharchik. Hello, Brian.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Brian, will you tell us where you are?
I'm in my basement right now, which has become it's my basement multi-purpose room. So it's one part workout room, one part playroom for my daughter, and now my camera studio.
Yeah, our
So it has
our
lots of.
Airbnb has now become my full webinar production, self tape, wake up in the middle of the night and sleep on the guest bed kind of place. It's like a madhouse. I'm very excited to be able to find some other space to repurpose all of these things because eventually this room will need to go back to hosting people. And also, is Ruby going to join us today?
She's hopefully going down for a nap right now, so probably not.
All right.
But you
Well,
might hear stomping around above us when she retaliates against mom.
but
So.
if she does, she's welcome. It's that time. We're doing those things, so feel free to bring her by. All right, I'm going to bring in one more guest. This is Paul Fagan. Hello, Paul.
Hey, hi everybody.
And Paul, where are you
Hi
coming to us
Dennis.
from?
I'm coming to you from our dining room. I'm sort of sitting opposite of where I've been taping from. I think later on we're going to have an action sequence where I walk over and kind of show everyone
Yes.
my little setup. But I'm sitting where we get natural light during the day that
But
we were
Paul,
able to
what
sort of
what
use.
city and state are you in?
Oh, we hightailed it out of town, and I'm just outside of Three Oaks, Michigan, a mere about 80 miles from downtown.
Yeah. So Paul has an amazing like house in the farm in the country with his partner Mario, and he is. It's really a lovely home, but it also is some technical challenges. Yes.
That's right.
Cool. So
We
we're gonna
worked through them.
yeah, we're gonna run through those and like where you are in process, as well as
Great.
what you want to accomplish. And you know, if you're lucky enough, there's some great cider that you can get nearby, and it's also a nice trip out. I mean, I'm not saying that Paul and Mario are gonna host you, but I would say like Galeen, Three Oaks, very nice places to visit.
It's a nice place to visit.
Okay, so I'm gonna take myself out, and then I'm gonna just jump back over to me for a second. And while I think we're waiting for everybody else to come in, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of talk about my home studio. I I work in production. I also travel the world producing live events. So sometimes I've got to record voiceovers for people. I need to record a bunch of videos. So I needed a bunch of stuff that was mobile. I could put in a bag and put on a plane and fly. So a lot of my stuff is kind of built that way. I got a green screen behind that little drop. We actually filmed a commercial for a law firm. I put my girlfriend Marika Mashburn on tape in here, and we sent that out. So there are a lot of opportunities. So I really kind of want to start there and say, don't view this time of tumult and a change as like everything is apocalyptic and everything is falling apart. It is hard, but there are genuinely opportunities, and I think it's just really important. The lead actress of Never Have I Ever on Netflix, Mindy Kaling's show, she booked that job. The lead of that show booked that job from a self-tape of 15,000 auditions. She's from a small suburb area outside of Toronto, and now she's the number one on a show, and it's amazing. She crushes it. You know, she's somebody who was unafraid, and a friend of hers just decided to go like, "Hey, did you see Mindy Kaling's tweet? They're doing auditions, so you should do it." And she did, and she booked it, and so can we all. And one of the things I found most striking is that a lot of the casting directors who have been kind enough to give us a lot of these kind of Zoom calls and Skype calls in the back end basically are just like, yeah, just get us good work. Get us, you know, decent lighting, clean sound, no distractions in the background. That's it. Honestly, it doesn't even have to be that great. You know, this is my camera from my computer. It's a little grainy because a lot of them are not, they're very sensitive to lighting. So you really have to like work hard to get them fine tuned. But I kind of left it crappy because I wanted you to see like, in many respects, it's actually more about knowing how to talk to your subject and reaching into the camera and having a connection and a relationship than it is about like the gear. So first, accept who you are. You're great. You're doing awesome. We're here with you. I'm going to jump into a little presentation that I've put together, and I just want you guys to kind of so this is kind of it. You know, full disclosure, I put this together today, so there are going to be some typos and spelling mistakes, and also I am an awful speller, so please be kind. So just so you know, we're in this together, and we are going to get through this. We're in the union. There's a big benefit to that, and part of it means that we genuinely are going to be able to come to the support of one another, lean in on one another. The KRC is there for you, and that's one of the reasons why Jets put this together. And I think it's really important to remember that what makes our community unique, even amongst other SAG communities nationwide, is that we do have an esprit de corps. And I think everyone will admit that when we go into a casting office, when we go into the KRC, everyone is there like, "Oh my God, so good to see you. How are your kids?" It isn't this kind of like cold and distant thing. Like genuinely, we're there to support one another. We are happy to be in the rooms with one another. We're happy to boost each other's work. So this is a great opportunity to like reinvest in that idea. Elements of the self-tape I think are really important to kind of just like square up. A lot of these things are really basic, and that's where most of this presentation is going to be. Just so you know, I honestly, none of this is like unique. I'm not some guru. I'm just a jobbing actor trying to work it out. So like, you know, a lot of these are just my opinions. I'm not an influencer. I don't make any money off of any of these products. I just kind of like have been futzing around, and this is where I'm at. So things that are important to note: environment, control, and background, capture. So that's your image, that's your camera, stability, transferring, editing, audio, microphones. We'll talk a little bit about that. Brian has got some great videos that he was kind enough to send of different kinds of microphones in different kinds of situations. Really appreciate that. Lighting, we're going to walk through why I think you want to know things about color temperature and daylight and should use windows and fixtures and light modifiers. Want to talk about your readers. or oftentimes your home partners, your friends, via Skype, if you have to, because you're home alone. This is a tough time for that. We'll get into some things about that, but I think most important, love the people who are there. Be patient with them. They believe in you. You believe in you. Thank you, Chef. And transmission. So I want to talk about that because I genuinely think that transmission is where most of us are in a full-blown panic because everybody wants things in a different way. They're all unique. Google links. Is it private? Can everybody view? What are the permissions? It's on Vimeo. It's on YouTube. WeTransfer, Hightail. Oh my God. There's so much. Wow. We'll do my best to kind of walk through it, but just so you know, it is even overwhelming for me, and I've been moving massive video files for a long time. Assessment. We're going to talk about the gear you have. We're going to open up some Q&A. Please feel free to use the comments and chat section. We're going to pull from that. An important thing to note before we get there, what kind of internet do you have? Is it DSL? Is it cable? Important one. Have you checked your speed? You're going to hear me talk about Speed of Me, Speed Test.io. There's so many of them. But what your ISP, your internet service provider, is saying that you're getting and what you're paying for are not always the same thing. And you need to hold them account. You need to be willing to shop. You need to be willing to change gear. You might need to buy a Nest like I have a Wi-Fi mesh network that I had to build out. It wasn't that hard to do. You can run it off your phone. It's kind of easy, but it improved the Wi-Fi in my house substantially. And I would not be able to do the live event business and the webinar business that I'm moving into if I couldn't. And then an important question, and this is an honest one, and honestly, it's like you should have no judgment about this. How much can you afford to reasonably spend to invest in your gear? And I want you to think about it short term, medium term, long term. And honestly, part of it is you're like, I just need to get through this, and after this is done, I'm doing everything at the KRC. That's it. I'm done with this home business. Totally fine. If you're just like, no, I really want to take control of this, and I want to learn how to make short films and maybe do a 24-hour film festival, and I want to use the gear that I have, I can help you with that too. And lastly, if I still have a little bit of time, because I am verbose, if you don't know me, Steve Spencer definitely does. I'm going to talk about the gear that I've purchased over time. I'm going to talk about why you should just ramp up to what you feel comfortable with. And most importantly, and the thing that I'm going to focus most time on is ownership. And I actually think that this is the biggest deal of all. We have the unique opportunity, and no one is going to hold it against us, to take control of the product that we send to our casting directors. That's a big deal, right? Most of the time, we are in the situation where they're in charge and we are a passive agent. We are now in the ability to say, actually, this is my work and I feel good about it. And the only person you have to worry about is at the end of the day, watching it objectively and going, yeah, that was good, that wasn't. 10,000 hour rule. You need to do this a lot to get good at it, which means you have to just get over the bull. Let go of all of the negative stuff that you do against yourself. You know what I mean? I'm balding. I hate it. Everybody knows that I talk about it all the time. Who's a friend of mine? I apologize. It's true. I get a little psoriasis bump on my eyeball. Actually, this eye right here, and I get one over here. You just have to get over it. You got to do it. Maybe a little makeup. Maybe put some eyeliner on. Whatever. It's fine. The most important part is reaching through, making that connection with your scene partner, making choices, being honest. Okay, be kind to yourself, help one another. This is an opportunity. Small investments go far. If anything, just getting that tripod is going to be the first step and a long step, and you're going to feel great about it. Also, important note, casting is super understanding. I'm going to take a second here because I need to make my window bigger or I'm going to lose my mind. You're going to own agency over your own work. One of the things I love about this is every one of these sessions we've done with casting directors, I've learned that, honestly, they're so chill about these things. And I think that we've just constantly worked ourselves into a tizzy because deep down inside we kind of have self-doubt about ourselves. So take this as an opportunity to be kind to yourself, but also be honest. What can you reasonably do? Don't try to like do everything. I tried to do a 48-hour film festival here with Marika, and we like had a script and all the stuff. We were up. It was like 2 a.m, and eventually like both of us realized like this is a disaster. What are we doing? We don't need to do this right now. And you know what? We had a drink. We went to bed. It was all good. And actually, that was great. Help one another. Your partners in home are often your self-type people. Be kind to them. They're going to do you a solid. But also be clear about what your relationships with them are. You're going to be reading with me. I don't need a lot of coaching. If I want coaching, I will ask. I understand that you may want to help me, but honestly, I think I have a good sense of what I'm doing. Again, this is an opportunity. Take advantage of that. I'm going to keep moving on because I'll just keep talking forever. All right, technical elements of the self-tape. Environment. I think environment is actually the most important one. Where are you going to tape? It's a big deal. Capture. You're going to need a camera. You're going to need some way to stabilize the camera on a tripod. You're going to need to find some way to like either edit on the camera or iPad or transfer it to a computer and edit it. First thing, tripod. Next, audio. A lot of people jump to lighting immediately quickly because they're just unhappy with the lighting in their home. But I will tell you, watching a lot of tapes and seeing a bunch of people, that in reality, garbage video you can deal with. Garbage audio you turn off immediately. You will watch tons of crappy videos on YouTube if the video is bad. But if the audio is irritating, it's hard to hear, you're adjusting it, you'll just turn it off and move on. So I think audio is kind of the place that I think is the best first investment after a tripod. Then lighting. And we'll talk about how you should use those types of things. And cool. So, room. You got to find some place that's quiet. This is the hardest part. You need to be able to lock it down. So take the time now to start scoping your house. What are the quietest rooms in your house? How much space do you have in there? Also part of lock it down. I choose to be in a space that is, enclosed with no windows because I have lighting. If you don't have lighting, you're going to need to if your living room, it's a southern exposure. Where's the sun? How is it moving across the day? You've really got to take the time to learn your space and what things work in that environment. Also, know your neighbors. Who's loud? What time do they get up? When do they go to work? I know it sounds crazy, but in the middle of your self-tape, when someone's like stomp, 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 you're going to lose your mind. So if you know your neighbors, it's a lot easier to plan those things. When is garbage pickup? How close to the alley are you? Is there a lawn care service that comes? Construction outside? Babies? Pets? Get those distractions out of your life. And the only way you can really do that is if you take the time to know, okay, this is the time of day this does that. Our upstairs neighbor, they're pregnant. You cannot do anything in the house in here between 4:30 and 6:30 when they're making dinner, because it's crazy. They're a couple and their partners, and obviously this time of day is just nuts. So if I have to get something out the door to my agent at 5 o'clock, I better have taped that thing at noon. Earlier today, they're clearing out the trap of the building next door, and so just gigantic machine happened. So I had to run around trying to figure out if I was going to go tape this somewhere else. Luckily, they finished. That being said, like I said, don't wait to the last minute. Something is going to happen. Give yourself the time to be able to tape in the clear. And by mean tape in the clear is be calm, have your breath underneath you, and be able to have that conversation. Get it right in the capture. Okay. What do I mean by this? You probably don't have a rock and post-production studio in your house, which means you should take the time before you start to tape to make sure that you feel good about the lighting, you feel good about the audio, it's clear, it's quiet. Don't go and record stuff and think that somehow you're going to be able to edit these things out. You can do a little, maybe 5 or 6% fixes. You can correct the color temperature and the lighting, maybe about 5-6% before it starts looking crazy, oversaturated, and it's not good. How much space do you need? Okay, this is an interesting one here, so I'm going to switch out to my primary for a second. So right now I'm a good 3/4, right? Actually, why don't we adjust that down? There we go. So this is probably the best framing from my computer that I can have. Obviously you can see a bunch of gack around me. It's how wide, it's how close I am in the framing. In the same respect, once I start moving further back, now you can see that full wingspan. I'm a big believer that you want wingspan plus 1 to 2 feet, so like either side of you, so that you can kind of move back and forth and be in the frame, but also that stuff behind you. I'm also a big believer that you really need depth. A lot of people do their self-tapes and they back themselves up against the wall, and it looks weird. I understand sometimes it's just like I only have this much space in my house where there isn't like a thing, and I don't have a backdrop, and if I've got to hang a sheet, it's a huge pain in the ass. Like, I get it. Actually, having stuff in your background is fine so long as it isn't too distracting. You know what I mean? Like, you can have art, it can be a thing. It doesn't need to be like, if you think of the casting spaces that we're in, sometimes they've got stuff in them. So like, don't worry about that. That is fine. Give yourself that distance, because as you can see with my background, a little bit of depth of field and I pop out, and I realize that's some technic speak, but it actually draws you into focus. And if you are backed up against the wall, I see your shadows, and it's kind of an unnatural thing. It's oftentimes like in theater when people are always only acting around a piece of furniture. In real life, you can comfortably stand in a middle of space and not have a problem. But all of a sudden on stage, everybody's got to like cling to like a thing, or, you know, like they're not feeling normal. So I like a good 2 feet to 4 feet to camera, but you're going to have to experiment, because depending on the kind of camera you have, you're only going to have so much room, and maybe you only have so much room in the space and like lighting environment. But like general rule, wingspan, and then maybe like a foot or two on either side. Okay, camera. This is an old adage, but it's a good one. The best camera is the one that you have with you. Your smartphone is literally the best camera that you need to have in terms of mobility, ease of use, and like ready to get the video out the door. It is a one-stop shop for everything. So if you're not going to go down the road of getting a Canon M50 or a DSLR or a C100, if you're not going to be a video person, right? And you're not a camera person to begin with, just get to know your phone. Honestly, the apps in it are amazing. They're super easy to use. The native cameras are awesome. The iPhone 11 Max is bananas. And I realize not everybody's going to go drop $800 to $1,100 on a phone, but still, the iPhone system, the way it integrates, is so useful. I have an 11 Max. I also have a Canon M50. I encourage you, whatever phone you have, Android, the S series, the S10, S10 Plus, all of those are amazing cameras. I say that as somebody who Samsung has paid me to work for them. So full disclosure. Tripod. I'm going to say that this is the most important investment you need to make. Stability. You need a tripod that can get the camera to your eye level. So when you buy it, before you buy it, you need to get a tape measure out, and you need to make sure that you can put the lens of that camera at your eyeball. A lot of people buy a cheap tripod, and then they've got to angle it up so they're shooting at the ceiling, or they have to do everything from a seated position, or they have to do everything from a portrait mode when nobody wants portrait mode. Everybody wants horizontal because that's how we see it. Like, obviously in this webinar scenario, this is useful, but other than that, it's not really a thing that people use. If you can, get 2 tripods. Get a small one that you can fit in your purse or in a bag or in your trunk, because you never know when you're going to have to tape or where you're going to tape. So you're going to want to just like grab and go with that thing. And you don't want to have to like constantly move a big tripod around with you. Get 2. And actually, I think a bunch of the kits that I'm going to offer in terms of lighting and audio, they might have opportunities for you to be able to like find those on your own. Quick tip, get some painter's tape. Set marks like you would do when you were on set, because you're going to go bounce back and forth. You're going to have your subject stand in for you, or you're going to put up a picture to like pretend to be you, and you're going to bounce back and forth, and you're going to want to make sure that you know where you're supposed to be. So get some painter's tapes that you can just put on the floor without marking up your stuff or your walls. Camera apps. Honestly, the iPhone app, Android native apps to like record video, they're all you need. You do not need to spend a ton of money on this. They're really user-friendly and not hard to work with. The new video cameras on like iPhone and Samsung Android phones, almost all of them now have an ultra-wide camera. And where this is useful is this I want to see your full body action. And you're having your partner like try to adjust the zoom while you pan down and it looks terrible. Okay, you don't have to do that. Honestly, what I do whenever I have to do those things is I cut, I go to a wide shot, I come back in, and I put it. So I go like, Hi, my name is Dennis Grimes. I'm with Great Talent Group. I'm 6'2". I smile, cut, come back, in the wide, cut, done. That's all you need to do. You can just dip in and out. It's super simple. So get out your phone and practice that. You're going to want to like find that spot in your house where to do that. Recording almost always horizontal. They bring it up over and over and over again in these casting sessions, which only leads me to believe that they receive a ton of videos in portrait mode. Portrait mode is where you see me right now. Now I'm in landscape horizontal. It's the same thing. It's just like cut differently, so you can kind of like see the references. Editing apps. Almost always they want you to send your videos as a single file. So how are you going to like clip those things together? You do not want to like string this as one continuous video, because you're going to want to edit, and you're going to stop, and you're going to want to fix it. I highly recommend getting a video editing app. You can do this through iMovie, but on your phone the interface is a little different, so you got to like transfer it to iPad or computer. I like Adobe Rush, and the reason I like Adobe Rush is I'm native to the Adobe ecosystem, but I also think it is super user intuitive, and the videos are amazing. I'll include a bunch of these clips or these this presentation. I'm just gonna like make a version of it, I think, available in the chat window or in the comments section, so you can go through. But I'm just gonna like put a bunch of lists of places to go. Adobe Rush allows you to like move videos around. You can trim heads and tails. You can fully cut. You can color correct. You can adjust the audio. It is all built into the app on the phone. It is very, very powerful toolkit. It's also so easy. I've been doing these dumb videos of me working out on my porch, mostly as an effort to practice using this app, but also because I've been trying to like encourage people to feel free to do whatever they need to do. And the gym that I'm going to is like, you know, totally closed down, and I really love the people there, so I want to be able to support them. So I've been doing this, right? I use this app almost every day to like cut and move these videos around, and I'm doing time lapse. It's very easy, and I had never been a video editor before. Export. This is an important thing because you got to send these files in a particular way. So you need to know how you're making these files. Something I wanted to do really quickly. I don't know if it's going to totally come through because I didn't tie to my phone, but if you go grab your phone, and everybody should grab their phone right now, and open up their camera, scroll it over to video. And so I'm working on the iPhone. This is the 11 Max. Okay, right here on this side right there, you're going to see something that says HD 30. Okay, this means it's shooting in 1920 by 1080, right, which is normal high definition, which I'm sure you've heard, like DVD quality, 30 frames a second. So this is mostly what people watch when they watch a movie. In TV shows, they're often doing 1080-60. So if you're watching like any of the Dick Wolf shows, that is 59.97, right? It just means that it's taking 60 frames a second as opposed to 30 frames a second. I'm going to recommend that you always shoot in 30. 1080-30. The files are smaller. As far as the audition is concerned, it's not necessary to do anymore. HD 1080-30. There's always a function that you can do that on other apps. It's also going to make transferring these files a lot easier. Any 60 frame a second file isn't just 2 times the amount of information. It's actually like 2.5 times the amount of information. And you will... Joyce... I can see that you're saying Joyce is not seeing that on her phone app. So I'm going to bring that up for a second. So Joyce, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some photos. If you can take a screenshot of your phone. So when you're in the video app, do me a favor, take a screenshot, put that into the comments section if you can, like share the video file, or if not, you know, send it later. I'll take a look at it for you. I can show you where to like find those things. Okay, just to move along really quickly, because I will keep talking. We're at 30 minutes already, and Jess had me do a wonderful run of show, and I'm blown past it. All right, so shotgun mics. I personally think the shotgun mic is the easiest thing to use. I have a professional shotgun mic at home, but these are some options that you can use to just directly plug into your Android or your iPhone. The reason I like them is they're a little bit of set it and forget it. You plug it in, you point it towards your subject. The person behind the microphone is speaking to it. You can adjust by distance. They're pretty affordable. They're directional. They have a tighter focus. There's no handling knowledge, so you don't need to know like where to place the lav like you will with a lav. You just point it in the direction of where you want to pick it up. Lavaliers. I like the Rode SC6L series, so the L is for lightning port. They've got one that's coming out for USB-C, which is kind of this rig down here at the bottom. To use it, you also got to use an additional app called the Reporter app. The tutorials are super easy. Again, there is a workflow process in terms of which one you open first before, you got to open the Reporter app, and then you can open your video app and that type of thing, but you have to adjust the levels. Lavaliers are more sensitive, which means that you can get great sound. And when we get to Brian's videos, we're going to show you a bunch of things to kind of go through that. But you can get a very intimate thing, so it cuts down a lot of background noise. Right now in my shotgun mic, if you're listening carefully, you can hear some hiss in the room. That is literally just like the air flowing through from my HVAC, as well as just some general audio static in the environment. So you've got to be careful in terms of how sensitive you are for that. One of the great things about using a lav is that you only need to talk as loud as where the microphone is. So a lot of us are theater trained. I'm a theater trained person. That's why I'm so loud all the time. I'm always shouting to the back of the room. I always have to remind myself, you don't have to do that. You only need to talk as far as this. When you're doing voiceovers, and Brian's going to tell you about that, one of the great things about a voiceover is that in reality, it's so sensitive, you don't need to use a ton of power behind the voice. There's a lot of dynamic that you're able to get just speaking lightly on your diaphragm. So you don't have to blast through like I normally do. And for any of you people who are super into, I forget what that is, where that people do the whisper talking. So it's really nice. Purple Panda Lav, ASMR, thank you. So that's good. So we'll talk a bit more when we get into Brian's stuff about kind of quality when we get there. Lighting. I'm going to say this. If you can, in all circumstances, try to avoid windows. As you can see in that video up top, they blast out outside, inside is dark. The way that your camera is going to work in auto functions is it's always going to adjust lighting to the brightest source. So if I get closer to my lights, this camera is going to adjust its sensitivity. If I move further away, it's going to adjust its sensitivity. As you see, as I move back and forth, the camera's constantly adjusting. So you need something that's like a static control. This light is in a particular position. I'm in a particular place. It doesn't go... yeah, okay, cool. I'll get to some of those comments, Justine. And so things about that. If you can, you want to get some curtains. Semi-sheer, not completely sheer, but semi-sheer, so you get some transmission in. You do not want the curtains behind you. The window cannot be behind you. The window needs to be in front of you, if that's where your major source of light is coming from. And Paul's going to walk us through some of those reasons why. You always want the camera side. If you have to, if you need to use a primary source of light, try not, if you have it directly bang on and the light is blasting in on your face, it's going to be a little intense. Try to give it a little bit of an angle so you can kind of give yourself a little bit of sculpting. It will improve the look of it quite a bit. All daylight is about 4,500 degrees Kelvin to 5,500 degrees Kelvin. And I'll show that on the scale as I kind of zoom in on this presentation. I don't know if I can pinch zoom, but I'm going to explode out the color graphic down at the bottom. Warm incandescent light, as you can see, is kind of closer towards 2,800. Daylight is around 5,000. I personally shoot everything in daylight because it's easier to color balance. All you've got to do is grab a piece of paper, and before you start your video, just hold up your piece of paper, and you're like, that's white. So if you adjust the lighting to match that white in the app, if you decide you need to color correct, you can. It's a lot easier. So just hold the piece of paper, record it for a second, and then don't change the settings, and it's easy to adjust. If you don't, get a lamp from around the house. I like to use, I'm going to go back to my presentation section. This simple light with this white lampshade, if you just put it, with a 60 watt or a 70 watt daylight, so I use LED lights, so typically the wattages are wattage equivalents. But you want to use a daylight bulb. Set it up on either side of the camera or right next to the camera. It will give you a nice soft glow. And just adjust the distance that you are to it, or the distance the light is to you, to kind of dim it back. Paper lanterns, which you see at the bottom, are also really great. They're super cheap too. You can go to IKEA and get a couple of paper lanterns or order them, and then a couple of daylight bulbs and hang them. And honestly, tons of independent films are shot with, in the industry, we call them China balls. They work really well. You can put 2 or 3 lights in them at a time if you don't have a dimmer, and you can just turn them on and like fill a full room and just kind of like hang it, and you will get a soft, even wash of light. They're super cheap. It's an easy way to go. But again, I'm a big fan. I prefer daylight as opposed to warm white because if you don't know how to deal with color temperature, it can be a real issue. All right, I gotta burn through here. Ring lights. A lot of people use ring lights. I don't have a personal problem with them. I think that there are some cons that you kind of will have to adjust. Newer and GMV make great ring lights. They're super cheap. They run about anywhere between 65 and $100. They're usually easy to use. They come in their own traveling kits. The things that I don't like about them is Casey Neistat is kind of like one of those huge internet influencers, and you end up getting this like people put on the sunglasses and then they get the ring light and like everybody looks like an influencer. And I don't think casting wants you to look like an influencer. They want you to look like a normal person, how you look on the day. I personally, when I see that hit, like if you look at my eyes, I know this is kind of ridiculous, but you see there's like one little hit above my pupil. To me, that is a very comfortable and familiar thing. So when you see that, it feels like a person who is well lit and feels natural. It looks like a good photo as opposed to this like beauty shot or glamour shot. And I feel like the ring light is a beauty shot or glamour shot, but they're super affordable and I've recommended them to people. I would say if you can, use the ring light on its own stand. Offset it, right? So if you have a ring light, don't put it directly in front of you, if that makes sense. Try to put it off to the side. And what it will do is it will give you that curve on the halo, but it will also like give you a wash on your face. You don't have to do an extreme angle, but get it off to the side a little bit and you can go a long way. And also you're likely going to have one tripod with your camera and one tripod with your light. But if you're like, I don't have any money, Dennis, I can't afford to buy all these things. A lot of these light kits come with a little kit that you can see that's on there where you can put your phone on. It works great. And honestly, like I said, casting is going to be super understanding. So like if that's what you got, it's going to look great. You should feel confident with it. I use panel LEDs, and I have a softbox on mine. But this one back here is the one that I use. That's a Dracast 500. It's the same one that's in that photo. I throw this on my background. It's got some barn doors. You can do a little bit of shuttering. It allows me to kind of like fill in. Also, I changed the lamps in my guest bedroom. So the light bulbs in the fan up above are now daylight. So they match the colors in the room. It does kind of make it feel like a hospital. When I bring this back to being an Airbnb, I'm going to take those out and I'm going to put in regular incandescents because normal people don't want to live in a kind of like daylight house. But for now, while I'm self-taping in here, it just helps me bump up the amount of ambient light in the room, and it's all the same color. I also use a softbox. I think softboxes are kind of critical because you want it not to look so hot. You don't want like a blazing thing on there. And as a balding man, you can tell that like you get hits. It's just something that happens. So, but it's an investment. You'll kind of add these things up over a period of time. Okay, so just kind of going over again, like just be kind to yourself. You know, you're gonna have partners in there. Help out each other. When your guests, you know what? The slide is actually wrong. I messed up. I deleted the slide I was supposed to. This is supposed to be about your partner. So I'm going to use this one to talk about your scene partners. Your scene partner is there to help you, and they believe in you. They care about you. Take the time to understand that they're giving of themselves. So be patient with them, but also be clear about what you want. You know, like, I need you to press tape. I need you to read these lines. Be in the clear. Step back. But you know, chill. You got to be patient, right? Like, because they're who you got, and this is a vulnerable point for you. It can be a vulnerable point for them because they can worry about having to tape with you because if you have a history and you've had fights before, and I've certainly been in this situation, especially if you're in a house with 2 actors. My God, yes, like this happens all the time. So do that. And again, I think it's like small investments. You can do these things. I think you can honestly build out a great home kit for everything. If you were like full backdrop, lighting, video, audio. I think you can do the whole thing, not inclusive of your phone, but the whole kit you should be able to do in, at the lowest end, probably about $200. At the highest end, I would probably say for just home stuff, if you're not planning on being a filmmaker, only go like maybe like 350, 400 bucks. All right, cool. I'm going to try to like move on because I've been below. All right, transmission. This is where this gets crazy. YouTube, Vimeo. Is it a publicly listed? Is it a privately listed? Is it unlisted? Are you doing Hightail, WeTransfer, Google Drive links? Okay, this is its own topic. It's like 30 minutes. Maybe Jess and I will do another webinar about this. Everybody has a unique thing. You've really just got to take the time to learn the nuts and bolts of it. I like WeTransfer. I often send a lot of things as Google Drive links. I set everything to anyone with link can view, so you have to know how to control permissioning, that type of stuff. This little graphic on the bottom is kind of a rough flow of how that data works. So if you're like, what is happening in the process? That's kind of how that goes. We can talk more about that in the comments and question section. Okay. Why did I buy all this stuff? And I'm going to kind of jump past all of this. Maybe we'll talk about it in the mix because we're running out of time. So now that we're there, what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring Jess in. And Jess, if you wouldn't mind, are there any quick comments before we jump into Brian that you think that we should take a moment to... Oh, is the broadcast frozen? No, it's not.
I don't think so.
I saw Steven says froze up, so I don't know.
Do we want to go back to Justine talking about where you change your video settings on your iPhone? So It looks like maybe it's an iOS situation, or perhaps the model of your phone. Some of the settings might appear different.
That's right. So it may be in a different spot. Usually there's like a cog or some type of button allows it to change. But I think as you update, it all becomes uniform. So yeah, you'll want to check the unique case codes of that. But again, in my opinion, to make your life easy, whatever the process is, you want to get it to either 720/30, which is also fine, especially for what we're doing, or 1920 by 1080/30. But 60 is just a lot. It's a lot more than you need.
And on that point, I actually know something that maybe you could answer, because this is a question that's come up. Folks have been getting a couple of audition requests, and they're being asked to confirm that they could create video in 4K. And some people don't know how you actually confirm that, because people have been asked to record things and send them remotely. Having that be a production confirmation to assure them that you're going to be able to export them video to the quality that they're going to need for the project.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, anybody who's asking you to work in a 4K paradigm is being rude. Honestly, I would say, like, if a client is asking for that, it's not good. Like, honestly, we should be resisting at all costs, because it requires a lot more gear, video wise, and it's a file transfer. Paul will tell you how long it takes to just upload a normal 720 video with low internet speeds. At 4K, you don't have the compute. You can't edit it.
And I'm hoping this is only a temporary situation, and this has more to do with the fact that people are actually recording products that are going to be used as part of a final product remotely, since we're quarantining.
Whoever's asking for it is a producer who doesn't understand the technical limits, and the people who are actually making the videos would go, "This is a disaster. You can't do that." It's just it's a terrible thing. I mean, like, if you know anybody who's actually having this problem, I can walk them through some solutions and I'd be happy to like consult. But honestly, it's super mean.
So I guess maybe that is just a case in point. If anyone has this question, or if this has been something that's been posed to them and they don't actually know how to confirm what their capabilities are, that is something that you can bring to us too.
You can shoot 4K.
Can help you discern.
Yeah, you can shoot 4K 30 on most new phones, but you need more light, you need good space, and it's going to look grainy. It's a crop sensor, so you got to learn how to like shoot in like a. There's just a lot of science that's involved with it. And now they're like, oh, you can shoot in 8K. And it's like, yeah, it's all camera trickery to a degree. And it's not really practical, because nobody's going to be viewing any of those things in an 8K workflow. Shooting in 4K just means for them, they can like crop in and zoom. So if you shoot poorly, they can kind of like get more shots out of one.
Right. And be able to be sure that they have a frame that they want to use. So,
correct. All right.
Yeah.
While we're going fast and I've just burned through all that time, Brian, thank you for being patient. Coming to you. Okay, so Brian, let's talk
Yeah.
about your journey here before we kind of start rolling into some of these videos. When did you start buying gear for the home?
For voiceover, I started buying gear for home probably, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. I started doing all of my auditions, not all my auditions, a lion's share of my voiceover auditions at home. Then started really on the simple end, started buying, I bought a USB microphone and then started kind of upping one piece at a time. And probably 4 years ago, I got sick of, probably 3 years ago, I got sick of doing self tapes by dropping my cell phone into a cup or Kleenex box and putting it up on a shelf and making sure it was at the certain time of day where I had the right lighting from the back window and standing in front of the closet door. And there's a lot of growing pains that I was going through with that, and I just started to accumulate some equipment to make my life easier. And fortunately, unfortunately, before we had our stay-at-home order, I had kind of accumulated most of the gear that I have now. I've made a couple of little improvements, but I went from, like I said, just filming on my back porch or outside even, or taking the cover off of every lamp in the house and trying to figure out where to put them.
Yep.
To being able to have a pretty reliable setup here at home, and the knowledge that I have from doing home recordings and using microphones for voiceover, then kind of spilled over into this world. I think we had a conversation, I don't know, months ago, where I'd just been using a lav mic, and you're like, oh, well, do you have a shotgun? I was like, yeah, I have a couple of them. And you're like, well, why don't you use that? And I was like, oh, duh, I never thought about it because I use shotgun microphones for voiceover recording, but I wasn't using them for my self tapes.
Yeah, and I bet the shotgun you use for your voiceover is quite a nice mic.
Yeah, I've got a Sennheiser 416 that I use for that, which is not what you're hearing me on here. This is my cheap travel mic that I got for $70, and it was on sale. And this is just something that I literally throw in my bag every day and have it with me whenever I'm out and about, so I can record.
And you just go hop in a closet with a couple of pillows and pick it up. Yeah, the thing I love about the shotgun mics is because they're directional. You can get great sound from a distance. Like I'm using a Sennheiser MKE 600, which is I do for voiceovers, and then I boom in for myself when I'm doing my own things. Brian, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll through some of your videos that you sent, just so we can kind of have a quality control test. So let's take a look. So I'm going to start with your video sound, that's your test stuff that you did from the iPad.
Okay.
Hi, this is Brian Plaharchek. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a third-degree black belt, and yes, I'm willing to shave my quarantine beard. Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek. I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a third-degree black belt, and yes, I'm willing to shave my quarantine beard. This is the iPad. Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek from Chicago, Illinois. Third-degree black belt. Quarantine beard is ready to go, and this is the shot. Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek from Payanessa Talent, Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, I think you can clearly tell very quickly, like, the different qualitative things, right? And all you were doing, same setups, just changing out which source of video, which source of audio. That Samsung S10 with the lav set up the way it was, to me, like what we were listening to last, like in the clear, that was great. And I'm going to go one more time, because I think that's the same video right here.
Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek from Payanessa Talent, Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
Third-degree black belt, quarantine beard, it's ready to go. This is the lav mic plugged into...
Yeah, so I love this. And one of the things I think is really striking too is that you've got a great front light, and you've got a couple of low angle lights that are kind of able to fill in underneath your chin. For people who have a certain age who get a little concerned about that, that's a great way to kind of like really take advantage of that space. I really like that a lot. I'm going to jump in really quick and let's listen to the shotgun from a distance too.
Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek from Chicago, Illinois.
So you get a little bit more room tone.
Quarantine beard is ready to go.
But it's still very narrow.
And this is the shotgun mic plugged into a little XLR interface that gets run into a dongle into my phone.
That's real good. And then this is just the lav.
Hey, this is Brian Plaharchek.
And I'm listening to it on headphones, so like it's a little bit easy for me to kind of pick up the sensitivity. But like if you listen to that, it was so close to his body, it actually sounded warmer.
Over there. There we go. Hey, this is Brian.
It's a more intimate sound. So like as you're listening to it on headphones, he does sound very, very close to you. And the audio is and video is in sync. So that's all great. I think, Brian, like, do you have anything else you want to talk about for your journey, just so we can kind of like roll through? I want to be cognizant of people's time.
I mean, no.
Okay.
I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, so when we jump in the Q&A, we'll get back to you. Paul, coming to you, buddy. Hello, my friend. Thank you for your patience as we bounce up here. Are you muted? I'm not hearing you.
Yep.
There we go.
Back.
All right, Paul. So let's talk about your life in Glean and the setup. So what are your current unique challenges, and what have you run into?
I think the biggest challenges you had asked me a couple of days ago was that before all of this, I was one of those people who was, I think for almost all of my self-tapes, I was running into the Coffer Center. And I was utilizing that resource, which is great. So as the world shifted, I wasn't set up at all. And I think you couple that with, I'm in that technophobe camp. So it was just like a combustible sort of situation. Yeah. So that was sort of where I started from. And the fact that I really appreciated you talking about knowing your internet speeds. Where I am here, I can't upload anything.
Yeah.
So I learned through
and
trial and
how
error.
How did the call go? Did you get I know you asked and they were going to send you a new router. Did that improve things at all? Did you get it yet?
We did get a new router, and I will say to everyone, go ahead and do that. It's the internet that we can get out here can't go any faster.
Yeah.
Or be any stronger.
Everybody, I highly recommend. I recommend that you go to, I think I just added that to the comment section over there. It's a website called Speed of Me. I like Speed of Me a lot. It's a lot of information you need to know. Most importantly, what you need to learn is actually the upload speed. Almost everybody is concerned about the download speed because when they're streaming videos and they're watching Netflix and they're watching Hulu, they want a high download so they get no latency, no blocking or pixelation. But for our needs, we're actually content creators, so you need a high upload speed. And by high, I mean it's got to be more than 10 megabits per second. Ideally, you want to be in that like 15 to 20 range, and that's an expense, and that can run into things. But if you can, just try to get that 10 megabytes per second. And if you have to, you're going to need to be close to your router. So if you're doing everything off of your phone, you want to be close to where that Wi-Fi signal is coming from. If you want that freedom to like work anywhere, you're going to need to get a Nest, some type of mesh Wi-Fi. Paul, would you mind going mobile and taking us around to see what you got?
No, here we go.
Here we go.
So one of the things that I think we learned quickly out here was that we have these windows that are on the opposite side of me, which, as you can see,
Can you flip the camera around?
Light me pretty well. Can I?
You can just spin the camera, like just physically spin it around. Yeah. So if you do that. See, now
right,
this is a great example. And now
we have
point
lots of natural light.
Yeah, and point the camera back towards your face. Now but keep the windows behind you because I want to demonstrate what happens when you leave the windows behind.
Yes.
Now you're totally in the dark, right?
Yep.
And as soon as you spin around, right? Keep going. You're coming in. Back a little bit for me. Go back a little bit. Yep. Now you can see where you're starting to get that hot spot, and you can like find a good spot to keep it even. Come forward back towards the windows like you were. And then kind of rotate your body around slightly to your left. Keep going. Other way. Sorry, other way. Other left. Yeah. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Wait for it. Wait for it. And stop. Okay. So see what's happening right here is because the walls are white and the windows are there, right? You're actually pretty well lit, right? But because of the aperture, right, the ISO setting on the camera, it's trying to match that balance to that white wall, which is why like white with a window to the side is such a problem. What you would need to do is you would have to be like right up against the wall, right? So that doesn't work that way. So when you go back to where you were, yeah, So it's not so bad.
I will say what we ended up doing was, and I've got the tripod here. There's a yellow wall just inside. So if you see that yellow wall behind me, we took that artwork down.
Yeah.
And then when I'm able to putting my camera in the holder, I've been filming here,
Sure.
and then over on this side of me, we have a table lamp that that's floor length. So we set up a lamp on the table so that way the light is balanced.
Yeah. Have you changed out the lamp to like a daylight bulb yet?
No.
So that I recommend is your next phase for you, because what that will do is right now you're 50-50, right? It's pretty dramatic. You got like cool on one side, warm on the other.
I don't have it on.
Yeah, but even when it is on, I bet it's still like 50-50. Great question about uploading from desktop. I'll get back to that in a second, Alexandra. So you're going to get the 50-50. When you add that extra light, it's going to help soften it. And what I would recommend, because you're coming in from the side so hard, that other light, don't do it at exactly 50-50. Try to angle it so that it's a little bit closer to the camera, right? So that will become your key light. And then the fill light, but still on the same side. So still on your left to balance out. But then what you want to do is you want to get it over so that you're actually a little warmer, like heat-wise from the light, from the light from the lamp as opposed to the window. Right? Because like with the window light, you're going to have to balance that with like clouds, time of day, how reflective, when you shoot. And you got to be tight about it because like, especially as you get towards the afternoon, it's going to happen very fast. Like sundown happens in a hurry and then you just run out of light. And what are you going to do microphone-wise?
I think what I'm going to do is in the interim, you and I spoke, just so everyone knows, Dennis has been my tech line for the last couple of weeks. I think in the short term, before I decide on a mic, I'm actually going to use this one.
Oh yeah.
We talked about this yesterday, that I'll actually just take it off and use some masking tape or some, even some gaff tape, and I'll
Scotch tape, whatever tape
to
you
the
got.
tripod.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great solution. Everybody doesn't realize that, but the microphone that's on the earbuds, if you've got them, are super sensitive. You can also use your AirPods if you have them. Obviously, everybody who puts in an AirPod, it looks a little dorky, but if that's what you got, use it and do not feel bad. If you need to, I'm gonna do a little trick here. I'm just some framing. So I'm gonna put this in this ear. Now it's gone. So now I'm gonna focus my framing. So when I'm talking to my subject, I'm doing my thing. I've buried it. You can't tell it's there.
Film it's magical.
Yeah. And that's a great microphone really too. All right, thank you. I want to be so cognizant of everyone's time. I realize we've gone over. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to jump into the Q&A. Thank you, everyone who's still watching and is patient about things. I was going to do a little tour of the OWN studio, but I'll wait until the end of that just to kind of walk around with my solo cam so you can kind of see the setup that I have. I want to be cognizant of everybody's time. So let's bring in some questions. Jess, what do we got?
So we're going back a beat. Joyce, I think she might have come in late because we kind of addressed this, but the question is, if casting is asking for a whole body slate, is vertical okay for that, or what do you suggest if you're alone?
Yeah, let me go. I'm just trying to bring that in. Where is that? Oh, there we go. Joyce, add to broadcast. Perfect. All right, so Joyce's question, if we got to go whole body, is it vertical okay? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. And it's going to be a pain in the ass, but I'll tell you why. It's going to crop in on the screen. So you're not going to actually get to see it. So one of the things that's going to happen is you're only going to look at it super narrow in that portrait mode. And the rest of the screen is going to go black or blur out if you choose to blur it out. Like there's a way to do that, but it doesn't work. Better, just cut. Hit cut. Move the whole camera and tripod back so that you can get your whole body in frame. Don't worry about what is happening on the sides and all the other stuff in your house and in your room. Don't worry about that. They all understand, particularly now. Just dip to black, come back to your full body, and you can say, if you don't want to speak, you don't have to, you can just smile. If you want to speak because it feels awkward, you can say like, hey everybody, and this is my whole body shot. right? Like all that is normal, and then cut again. When you go vertical, it messes with things, and it's going to make it more difficult to fix in post in the edit, especially if you're stringing the whole thing together as a single file.
I agree with that, and it's distracting, especially if you are going back and forth, because it points out to us that you're on a phone and this is not a theatrical experience. So you want to have that kind of continuity also of the framing, which is good as a viewer.
Yeah.
You want them to be able to imagine you in film.
Right.
So that's helpful.
Just cut. Don't be afraid to cut. Cool.
We're going back to a question that I think you noticed. Alexandra was asking about your uploading from desktop at 10 megabytes a second.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question. Honestly, if you're at a desktop and you are Ethernet connected, so that desktop is connected to the Ethernet, you're going to get the fastest speeds possible. You still want a good upload speed, no matter what. I would still say it still needs to be about 10 megabits per second, if you don't want to wait all day. Paul, when your internet, when you checked on it, speeds, like how many hours was it saying it was going to take for your video to upload?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was about. It started at 15 hours. So while I'm out here, what I've ended up doing, and people may want to consider this too, depending on what their speeds are at home, is we have friends that live just a little farther away, and I sit in my car outside of their house, log into their internet, and I've just been making drives out there once or twice a week, and uploading my self tapes.
I also, when I was visiting my girlfriend's parents at their house in Colorado, I would go to outside of coffee shops that were closed, either in the morning or at night, and I would hijack them. I would go to the library, and I would upload things, because like their internet at their house was also terrible. But yeah, I would say if you're from a desktop, it should be a lot easier. Usually those machines have more going on for them encoding wise.
Gentlemen,
yes.
Question from Steve Spencer. Can you tell us, Brian and Dennis, about your backdrops? Are they muslin? What are they? What are we looking at right now?
Ooh.
Brian?
Dennis, do you want? This is a muslin 10 by 10. This is actually my Corona upgrade. This is what I've recently added. All this talk about needing a royal blue backdrop. So I was like, okay, well, I'll get fancy. I think I got this 10 by 10 muslin royal blue backdrop for $30 on Amazon. So.
Yeah, they're super cheap. And you've got a green screen chroma key back there as well. And I think that's actually a really great segue. I recently bought a green backdrop as well because, and this, Jess, this leads to your question before about shooting in 4K. I actually do think more of us are going to start recording our own content from the house to submit. But I'm also going to say this is going to be one of those little tricky things with the union too. Because now they're asking us to be camera op, video op, transmission engineer. And that's a lot. And that's our gear and our money. It's one thing to be uploading a video for an audition. It is another thing to be a full production suite for some person. And as far as the union is concerned, I'm not really sure how that tracks. So there's a bunch of stuff with that. But if other people are really interested in green screen things and they want to talk green screens, they are complicated. And I would love to get into that. We can have a private conversation about that. Good tricks of the trade. But it's its own little beast. But I've got a green screen back there too. And going back to your question, Steve, yeah, they're cheap. They're just some muslin drops from Amazon. This one is huge because I had kind of built it for our living room to be able to shoot in there originally, which is a little bit wider. So mine is a 10 by 12. And then I've got a chroma key green back there as well, so that if I need to do any stuff for the webinars, I can do that.
There have been some people, and I think maybe some people that are in the call right now or on the webinar right now were part of our virtual on-cam jam with Courtney Rue yesterday. She's got a beautiful hand-painted backdrop that's like a clamp one. And they take up so little space for people that don't know how they're going to hang something full. You can find these online. They're very collapsible. They're the kind that have the wire frame and you can turn and close and compact. So if you are not sure if space equity is part of your problem, obviously we're going to see the rest of your environment when you get your wide shot for your slate. but for the purposes of taping, you wouldn't know it wasn't a full wall backdrop. And so those are great to look, and they translate beautifully on camera. The colors are beautiful, and they bring out skin tones just because of their color palette, so they're really nice.
She's got the slate one, right? The kind of like oval pop-up slate.
Yes.
Those are like the reverse of mine is also the gray, which is actually kind of interesting. A lot of these backdrops you can do two types. The thing about the collapsible, and again, like, there are no illusions. So, like, don't feel bad if you give away the farm. If you've got to go pull back for the wide shot and you see the backdrop and you're like, oh, it's on a stand. Like, nobody's going to fault you for that. Everybody knows. So
right.
just like,
this is the self-tape is a little bit of smoke and mirrors, which is why if I spun my frame around right now, you'd see my exercise bike and a cat litter box. So,
right.
I mean,
and it's also, I think, a good thing to keep in mind that when you are editing, especially if you're using something like iMovie, it's relatively easy to crop in too, so you can get the background of your house there. But then before you send it, you can crop in so that they're only seeing that part of you and your wingspan or whatever.
So, and I'll say before we jump into Steve's question, for anyone that has iMovie questions and this kind of self-editing element is a mystery to them, those are things that we can handle with you offline at the Coffer Center as a resource. That's what Henrique and I are here for. So you can email us through the website, and we could actually get on Zoom with you and do screen share and walk you through how to do that kind of thing on iMovie. So if you are like, that sounds like a great thing, Brian, but I don't know how you do that, take that question offline with us, and we could set up one-on-ones as necessary as you're working on editing.
Yeah, and to that, Jess, I'd love to, like, at some point in time, if we want to do another one that's just about Adobe Rush or just about video editing, especially when we can get back to the KRC, let's do it. Let's all get together and we can just go through and show how to, like, simply do edits and dips to black or, like, transitions, those types of things.
It's all so easy and it makes it look so clean. So yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Boom. Okay. Yeah. So, let's see. Anything else that's on there? Yeah, I think anyone who's got some stuff offline, I'll put my email address in the thread. Feel free to ping me. I will be totally honest. I am trying to reinvent my personal work business, so I'm doing a lot of training on how to do video conferences much like this for corporate events. So I'm kind of getting booked up on that front, but I will do my best to get back to you. And as all of the friends on this list know, it's very easy for me to say yes, but if you don't bother me, I will forget. So feel free to ping me a lot, because it's not that I'm being mean, it's just that I'm highly distracted. I can pull a bunch of ways. Okay, great. Are there... Steve Spencer wants to know, what is Wi-Fi mesh? Yeah, so I would just straight up Google mesh Wi-Fi. There are a bunch of different companies that make them, and what it allows you to do is, if you have a single base station, like, router Wi-Fi hub in your house, normally you get from, like, AT&T DSL. It's like an Aris. Usually they give you the box that you, like, either plug in the Ethernet cable into or you plug in the coax Wi-Fi cable into, right? They sell these little components. You can get one from Google. The Nest has one. I've got mine is from Eero, EERO. What it allows you to do is you just plug it, a power supply into the wall. You set up one base station, and then, like, you go through the app and you set up another one, and then you set up another one. And I am now able to get across my entire house the same Wi-Fi coverage in each room. So I can do in the living room, directly plugged in. I can get 300 megabytes down, maximum 50 megabytes up. Wi-Fi, I can do about 150 to 200 down and 20 up in every room. So that's kind of like how that works.
And I'm going to piggyback on that, and that's a very worthwhile thing, because you'd be surprised if you're basing your connectivity on one router, not having mesh. You'll find out, and especially if you're chasing light in your house or your condo or your apartment or wherever you are, and you get to the wrong area based on the light. Like I have a wall that's over here and the light's good, but my Wi-Fi doesn't work and I have a remote reader and now everything's busted. If you just had that mesh that got it all the way through your space, then you have more options during your day because of that, just in the space that you're in.
And part of it is it's just that the ISPs, the internet service providers, right? Like they don't build your house or your condo. So where your inputs are limited. Like, for example, the only functional place that I can get DSL when I had AT&T was in our kitchen, which was actually pretty useful because I could put the router in the cabinet in the center of the house. So we had pretty decent coverage, except I couldn't leave it in the open because it's just ugly and near water. So you would lose coverage through certain walls or certain cabinets. When I went to RCN, who I currently have now, the only cable outlet that works is in our living room. So it's at the front of the house. So I could get better internet across the street in the parking lot than I could in our bedroom because it would have to go through two walls and around the corner. So as soon as I put in mesh Wi-Fi, all that stuff changed. And also, like, you know, my girlfriend, she is Dennis Watkins in the Chicago Magic Company. He's like doing virtual events, and she's got to monitor those, and she's like producing those remote. So like we're doing video things simultaneously. So we need more bandwidth all the time. Also, in my guest studio, you can hardwire Ethernet directly into the router. So I'm not actually going Wi-Fi from my MacBook Pro into the router. I'm hardlined, and then it is going Wi-Fi over, which is a more direct signal. So like the path of travel is better. So you can get you can speed things up along as well. Cool. All right. Again, we're a little over time, but I wanted to see if anybody else on the panel have anything that they want to talk about. Brian, I know that you had some voiceover stuff that you could really specifically kind of like lean into, and actually Justine had a great question about her Blue Yeti microphone. So I'm going to bring that in. Her question was, I have a Blue Yeti mic for VO. Could I use that for video? Brian, you've obviously been doing some integrations with your microphones at home. I think that's a USB microphone. So there's probably some integration challenges depending on pickup. But if you did a thing, but like what do you use and how far have you come along in that part of the journey?
Well, right now I have this little device that is called, let me see if I can I might be able to stretch it far enough away from the camera that you can see it.
Yeah, iRig.
The iRig Pre, right? This is a super cheap device that I think it was $40. This allows me to connect an XLR condenser microphone. So, you know, the same professional type of microphones that you would see in studios. To basically any device that has a headphone jack. So USB, as Dennis mentioned, will present some challenges when you're trying to use video. The best thing I can tell you is try it and see what happens. I have found that even with this interface, there are certain video recording apps that will work better with the audio. I can control the audio better, like Rush, as Dennis mentioned, and then iRig actually has their own free recording app that does video and just audio recording. You get a free download of it when you buy the Pre, and that's pretty cool because you can actually track and monitor your audio recording levels while you're doing video. You get you can plug in, like whoever's taping with you can plug in headphones and listen to the audio that's being recorded to tell if you're too loud or too soft and kind of hear what's happening in the room, which is kind of cool. I don't know for sure about the Yeti. I would imagine there's a way to work it out, but it might be a little complex based on what you're recording into.
But Justine, I will say that I guarantee, a YouTube video that discusses that particular scenario. And honestly, that is a great segue. YouTube is our friend. There's a lot of content. It's hard to evaluate. But honestly, you do have to watch a lot of videos to find out what's good. But honestly, I'll be the first one to say that, like, whenever I've encountered a technical problem, particularly with a partner, and they're like, this thing isn't working, and I'm like, here, give me the laptop. And then they watch me go on the internet. They're like, oh, you're just going to YouTube this and like figure this out. It's like, yeah, of course. Like, I don't just know how to do these things. I got to go figure it out like anybody. But the thing is like, I often come across, and I've been accused of having a Grimesian assurity, which is that I speak with authority about something that everybody is like, does he actually know about that? I'm not so sure. I'm a very curious person.
Often in error, never in doubt.
That's right. Well, I don't know about often in error. Paul, we're in the middle of the webinar.
Occasionally.
And that was the end of your tech help right there.
And that's it. And Paul, before you mute out, I'd really love to again just like to talk about what comes next for you. And what so far has helped, and where do you still feel like you need to get some help?
Yeah, I think where I am is I'm sort of compiling my grocery list, as it were, right? Like, I know I learned the hard way about that, eye level for the tripod. So I'm getting my list together of all the things I'm going to purchase, which I'm just going to get. I'm going to get the tripod at eye level with the camera holder. I'm probably going to get one of the shotgun mics because that seems to be helpful. And I hadn't heard of these pop-up screens, so I'm going to look into that.
Yeah.
But I think I'm on the sort of more modest end of the suite of things I'm going to purchase, and so I'm going to just get kind of those three things. Continue to kind of play around with our light source, which is daylight, and then also knowing that when we're back in the city full time, I have to just sort of manage again. But that's where I am.
So I'm gonna throw something totally crazy at you right now. If you have a hardware store that's nearby, and I'm sure in Michigan they do, and a lot of people probably in Michigan still have storm windows, you can probably buy the screen material that you would get for window screens. Most people don't have window screens anymore. But if you were to get a big, like a roll of it, and you were just to do it and tack it up partial of the way across that door opening, you will cut down the light coming in from that window a stop or two, and that will even things out. So that's super cheap.
Yeah.
There are some great resources that are coming in as well into the chat, into the comments section. So feel free to check into that. Yes, that's great. Thank you, Mickey. Yep, that's a good one. Iographer. Yep, Iographer, and they're making some cases for phones and tablets for tripods, which is true. I like Moment. Moment is a good company too. And if you decide that you want to get into the wonderful world of lenses, you're like, you know what? I'm digging this. I want to get a wide lens. I want to get a telephoto. I'm going to use this for some video stuff. Highly recommend the company Moment. Moment. They're totally Canadian vlogger video types. They're very hip. You'll feel a little hip just watching the videos. I feel a little bit better myself. Okay, everyone. Unless we have anything else, I'm going to let you all go. I want to thank you so much for tuning into this video and to spending your time with us. And I want to really thank my guests, Brian and Paul and Jess and everybody's.
And thank you, Dennis.
Well,
thank you. I mean, your expertise, your frame of reference, the knowledge that you bring. These are, I mean, resources are human resources as well as physical plant resources. So just because we're all sheltering in place doesn't mean that there aren't resources available. So thank you for being a resource to your community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right. Bye, guys. Bye for now. I'm sure we'll do some more. Let's, Filmic Pro. Yeah, I'm going to, Mickey. Oh, I like Mickey. What's going on here? We're on the same page. I got that same app. I love it.
I'm going to chime in 1 minute and say, if you haven't followed us on Facebook and Instagram at Coffer Center, please stay tuned. We're doing things like this, everything from, technical resources, career resources, personal resources. We are putting all of this out there, and community resources too. We get together for coffee every week on Zoom. So you are, like I said, you are isolated, but you're not alone. So I want to make sure that you remember that. Reach out to us if there's ways that we could help be company and be a resource to you. And make sure that you connect with us so that we can continue to do that and keep the conversation going. So thank you for making this time for yourself today. Thank you for being here. And be sure to share the word with people that could benefit from this information and the other things that we have going on that are available to keep us all connected during this very strange time that we find ourselves in.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you. Bye, everybody on the 4-box. And Jess, as you and I, I'm just going to hang on to us before we go. A great way to help build this community, and I think Jess pointed this out, and this is a really important one. Share these videos. The KRC's member page, right, it's like any of the group pages. They will get buried in your feed. You won't see the updates. The events will disappear. It'll be like a thing. You actually have to be an active member of the community to get the info that you need. And that's a tough thing because I know that we're all super busy. But the more that you check it out, the higher it's going to go up in your feed. If you go into your Facebook preferences and you kind of select it as hey, give me news from these people, it will come up more. And share the videos.
And if you're afraid of missing out or you don't want to stay tuned into social media right now, but you don't want to miss out on something, you could also subscribe to our newsletter. Our website is coffercenterchicago.com. So those things can come to you without you seeking them out. So be sure that you go to our main page and subscribe. You scroll down and it's subscribe. You can subscribe to our headliner. Those come out whether you're sheltering in place or whether you're out in the world, which we hope to see you there soon. So if you subscribe, you could stay tuned to everything that's going on. And our email address is there. If you fill out any of the Q&A fields on the website, you have questions, you don't know how to get a hold of us, you can reach us through the website as well as our Facebook page, as well as Instagram. So there's plenty of ways to, let us be a resource.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And
thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.